Hello, everyone, and welcome to Game of Bros, a Game of Thrones podcast where we talk about House of the Dragon and nothing else. I'm just kidding. We talk about the other Game of Thrones from time to time, but you don't want us focusing on that. I don't want us focusing on that. I, being Chris Yashar, your host, and he doesn't want you focusing on that. He being my co-host and longtime friend.
I'm still waiting for my dad to accept me because my dragon egg wouldn't hatch. Sharp your ass.
Yashar and his dad have a weird thing going on. They actually care about dragons in the real world. But in the fantasy world of Game of Thrones, we're talking about the 6th episode of the first season of HBO's latest iteration of Game of Thrones. That show being House of the Dragon. That episode being The Princess and my queen. My queen. That's all I can think of when the show says queen, is just Jon Snow just so balls pinned to the wall going, my queen, my queen.
I would be too if it,
Jon Snow sequel show coming in 2024. So,
yeah,
because somebody at HBO realized people still like Game of Thrones when it's good.
You'd be sick if that show is literally just like him farming,
just pulling a Thanos and just like sitting on a farm,
just like it's actually like a sitcom, like Game of Thrones. Funny, it's like, I just
it's snow,
cold winter we're having.
Yeah, my queen. I hope to God that the Jon Snow show isn't just him like having a crisis of faith for the first season about how bad he feels about killing Daenerys. Like he sees her in flashbacks and stuff. That would be so cringy. Ooh.
I actually just realized he killed both of his love interests.
Yeah, boy, he did. God. Well, speaking of killing your love interest, let's talk about the 6th episode of this show, The Princess and the Queen. It's directed by Miguel. Oh, no, it's written by Miguel Sapochnik. Excuse me. Oh, no, it is. It's directed by Miguel Sapochnik and written by Sarah Hess. And in this episode, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, 10, count them, 10 years have elapsed since we last saw this show, but only a week in the span of our real lives.
Wig technology has significantly improved in the 10 years, I will say.
By God, hasn't it?
As far as Wig Watch goes, I'm feeling a bit better.
This is Wig Watch. Westerosi Wig Watch 2022. Let's just get this out of the way. Is this the same show anymore? 10 years, man. But all of a sudden, the tone of the show is...
everyone is an asshole.
Yes. Everyone is to quote Game of Thrones, a raging cunt of like everybody is just I don't think we've seen cunty characters in this show as hard as we are in this episode. And like everybody is a cunt to everybody else. There's no characters that aren't cunty to one another.
Kristen's basically like a mustache twirling full villain. Like they just like he's just a bad dude.
Didn't you know that that's not the queen? I guess not the queen, the king's daughter's actual children. It's like what is going, and like just beat the shit out of kids. Why don't you? Like what happened? The show like lost its mind, or the show just said, well, in the last 10 years, terrible things have happened, so they're all now just terrible people.
Let's just do a quick recap. So 10 years have passed since the wedding. Laenor and Rhaenyra have had 3 kids together. The episode opens with the birth of the 3rd kid that looks like probably aren't hers and aren't his and actually hers and Arwen's. It's not 100% confirmed, but
I mean, so here's the thing: they like make a point of showing the skin color of the baby almost immediately, and like I was wondering, I was like, is this is intentional? Yeah, and yeah, I mean, yes, because the entire episode, this episode is pretty much just almost a like beat for beat repeat of King of the Narrow Sea, like in a lot of ways, like
stuff,
right. It's instead of did you fuck your uncle, it's are you fucking your protector, which I mean, again, like her previous history would denote that yes, she is. She has
a type. She has a type. And also coincidentally, he's also named Joffrey. But speaking of bastards, so the weird thing is, so we have all this time jump. All the kids are older. Viserys has 3 kids now, 2 sons and a daughter. We are introduced to, there's a lot of tension between the queen and Rhaenyra. Basically, nothing has gotten better in the last 10 years. Alicent's just super resentful. Like
she's grown into her own. She is the king now.
Yeah,
she is the king. I mean, in a lot of ways, like Viserys is really now the weak-willed king.
Yeah, he's grown a bit more tender in his old age. The 10 years are not good for his skin regime.
He's grown tender, all right, and scabby.
Yeah,
it's Paddy Considine looks right, proper, disgusting throughout the entirety of that. He looks like
he's the Crypt Keeper.
Yeah, I was going to say he looks like what the Crypt Keeper would look like if he weren't emaciated and gaunt and skeletal looking. He has that weird thing where it's a wig, a bald wig on his head, and then they've attached like strands of wispy hair. It's gross. He's gross. It's gross to look at, just in general.
I mean, and I'm sure for Allison, it's gross to bang. And this problem is like, do you think that's like the root of the resentment? Is she's just like, hey, Rhaenyra's got to like do what she wants, and I just have to like be with the king, and I'm petty like that?
Why are we doing Why are we doing the show's job for it? Because they should have had some of that in there.
And that's we'll get into that with the issue with the time skip.
Time skip. Yeah, let's just talk about it. Let's talk about the time skip first, because it is we open on Rhaenyra being played by somebody else. We open on Rhaenyra being played by the actress
too.
Yeah, well, the actress who will play her for the rest of the show, Emma D'Arcy, and like you said, with Laenor, then we see Laenor as an adult as well. So it's there's nothing. There's no Millie Alcock, nothing. We're seeing them as adults. Like they're not. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, and so we see them as adults. There's tension between the Queen and Rhaenyra. People are questioning the birthright of Rhaenyra's children. Are they actually Laenor's kids? Because it looks like her and Harwin have a thing going on. There's a training montage with the one interesting thing I like is like the king's children and his grandchildren. They do seem to have like a camaraderie and friendship, and they're all growing up together, being trained together, learning how to use dragons together. We learned that Aemon, the king's youngest son, does not have a dragon, and Helena, his daughter's kind of like got a weird Luna Lovegood vibe going on. And then it kind of moves into there's this tension between Kristen and Harwin, and Kristen's basically just turned into full troll. He now works for the Queen.
So we're never even told what happened after she walked in on him attempting to commit suicide. I assume this is what happened. Hey,
she's like, work for me.
Right. Do you want to work for me? And he goes, why would you say yes? I guess is the question.
Because he gets to live, and she's like,
I'm not mustache twirling bad boy. Like,
and so the crux of the episode is the legitimacy of Rhaenyra's children. She proposes like a partnership between her family and
her dad's family.
Yeah, I actually like did a little. I mean, people can't see, but I did like a little thing. And it's basically like the king's grandchildren marrying his children.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cousins marrying one another.
Some. Well,
no, I'm not saying it's okay,
uncle,
but like
cousin.
Yeah,
it's also Rhaenyra's brother, basically. Rhaenyra's kid marrying her brother.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Gross. But again, I mean, in the context of this universe, Game of Thrones makes perfect sense. And again, if you're trying to shore up political alliances.
Yeah. And then it then leads to Alicent. Larys is still on the show saying how she feels isolated and frozen out. And he basically murders his father and brother, with whom we've never really even seen him interact. So it's kind of hard for us to really get what's going on there. And that kind of ends the episode and then Rhaenyra goes off to Dragonstone with her family. And we also get a little insight into Daemon and his wife. And they have a little interesting relationship in which she burns to a crisp during a bad birth.
Targaryens, baby.
Yeah. So that was kind of the episode. A lot happened. There's a lot of characters that die that are important, but also spend any time with them. So like, I didn't care.
Well, that's the problem. I mean, again,
so let's get into
we have a time jump that we're not privy to. And so characters that exist in the time jump that are important in the jump of the time are introduced to us in essentially their last days, unbeknownst to us and unbeknownst to them, obviously. And again, like we've talked about with the show before, because of the way the show is telling the story that it's telling, it really is just like, now it's like telling us to stop and start again. And it's a lot. It's a lot, right?
Did you like the episode?
I don't know if I don't know if I liked it or disliked it. I don't think that's important. I think what's important is whether or not I'm interested to see where it's going to go after the time jump. I will say I'm interested to see where it goes after the time jump. I don't know if I like this episode very much. I think this episode might be the worst I've seen yet, primarily because all of a sudden now the storytelling is very Game of Thronesy, where it's like things are just going to happen. And we're not going to tell you. And not even not tell you, but like, we're just gonna be like, and here's this guy. Okay, what does that guy do? He does X, Y, Z, and now he's dead. It's like,
yeah, I enjoyed viewing it much more than like the Stepstones. Like that issue is the low point. But like writing wise, like there's just a whole bunch of, I don't care. Stuff just happens. Like it's really hard for me to understand characters' motivations. And
am I supposed to care about Lena Valerian? Like really?
No.
Like am I? You're expecting us to care.
We don't know her. Am I supposed to care about Harwin? We've seen him briefly in like an episode or two before. I mean, he seemed like he could be an interesting character, but the whole way that Larys kills off his family is like ripe for like, does he resent his family? Is he purely like just purely like a political ambition machine? I don't know. Like he just seems like a piece of shit to me. And he also has like insane access. He just goes and picks up prisoners and cuts off their tongue. And he cuts off their tongue so they can't talk. But he also puts his brooch on them so they're easily identifiable as his
cronies who are killing people, who are going around and committing acts of murder for him. And then the queen goes, I didn't want you to do that. It's like, okay, so all of the writing that they did for Alicent in the last 5 episodes, you're going to undo now too? Because the response should have been like, okay, ends met the means. Like
she does. Alicent, I think, has one of the most powerful scenes where she walks in on her son jerking it in the window that maybe Tom
jerking off onto King's Landing, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically a Homelander move if you watch The Boys. The weird scene, and then she comes in and she tells him, you know, you need to like be serious because your life is at risk with the throne. He's like, I won't fight for it. And she's like, just you living is a challenge to the throne. And she's basically echoing exactly what her dad said to her 10 years ago. And it's like, she went from thinking this thing is a risk to believing it. And she's like completely internalized it. And it's hardened her so much against Rhaenyra, where like there really shouldn't be probably the level of vitriol there is right now. And she is the aggressor. She has become the aggressor in this relationship. Where like, I mean, Rhaenyra just had a child and she's like, bring the child to me. Like,
but again, like the question becomes like, you're telling me that what happened to Alicent and Rhaenyra in episode 5 of this show was worth keeping hold of 10 years.
Well, it wasn't about, it's just like the breaking of the relationship. It seems like it's hard for me to believe that like nothing got better.
That's my point. Like 10 years, like that was the inciting, catalyzing incident and nothing ever got better.
It just got worse.
But like worse to the point of where we are now.
Yeah. And
I guess so. But again, like that's the problem with the storytelling device of 10-year jump is unless you have a firm foundation in place ahead of that jump, the moment you jump, you're going to have to do a lot of like creative fixes and creative storytelling to get us to understand where everybody is now. And all they've done is really just go, well, this is where they are now. And there you go. It's like, what? Why? Why? For what reason?
Did you care about Harwin?
I'm not sure how many characters I care about in this show at this point anyways, because there haven't been there. The only characters that we've seen a lot are Rhaenyra and Alicent, really. And like some Daemon and some Viserys, but we know Viserys is going to be dead. This isn't a Sean Bean thing where like, the first season of the show is Sean Bean. But if you don't know the books, you don't know that he's going to die. Like, that's not this. It's, you know that the king's going to die. There's no way he sticks around.
That's the inciting incident to like the conflict is
right.
The king dies, but and then what happens after.
Right. But honestly, that should have been how this show opened.
With him. Yeah.
Right.
That would have been interesting.
Because here's the thing, what they've shown us up until this point, I don't feel like has been good enough to have given it 5 episodes, solely 5 episodes, maybe tell it through flashback or something.
And funnily enough, the only character that I mean, the king showed a little bit of like he's got, like I said, got more affection. But the only character like that's really shown any type of character growth was Damon in the 10 years.
Yes.
Like, hey, he's like, I'm down to just kind of hang out with my family, like, be separate from all the politics stuff, like the king ambition. I don't have it. I'm down to just chill. With Lena, who, he's now married to and is older, and they have 2 kids together.
And they seem to have a decent relationship too. It's kind of weird. Like you see them riding the dragons together, and she blows a giant fireball and he flies through it. And you kind of get the sense that like she's a little bit of like Damon's equal, which we haven't seen a character who can stand up to Damon. Even Rhaenyra can't stand up to Damon because she's getting manipulated by him.
She's more of a warrior than even Damon is. Like she says, I want to die a dragon rider's death. And, she rides the largest dragon, Vagar, right? It's the largest and oldest dragon I think that we've seen. And he kind of looks very crusty. He's got a cool, he actually, they spent CG well on him because Vagar might be a she. But they whatever.
It looks proper crusty.
Yeah, Vagar looks very crusty.
But you know what? That's a good detail to focus on. Like the quality of the CGI in this show, because we're finally kind of seeing, like we haven't seen. It's not that we haven't seen the dragons up close up until this point, but we haven't. Some of the things we're seeing in this episode we have never seen before, like baby dragon training, which I think is interesting. And they use that as kind of a moment to set up a conflict between Aemond and Aegon and the younger kids, the kids of
Rhaenyra's kids.
Yeah.
Jason, I can't remember the other one's name. They have all
probably will die before the end of the season type thing, again, we don't know the source material, which I know some people might be annoyed by, but there are plenty of us who watch this show that are not going to sit and ruin it ahead of time for ourselves.
And I almost wonder, is it more about the kids now? Like, like it's the kid. Are they going to be the primary character?
A 10-year jump, and now it's focusing on the kids like it was focusing on the kids in the first 5 episodes.
Yeah, like where Rhaenyra and Alicent and stuff obviously going to be important, but it's actually more about the kids' story. And are we going to get some sort of attachment to them? I mean, we're introduced to a lot at once.
We're introduced to 10 characters this episode at least.
Damon's 2 kids, the King's 3 kids, Rhaenyra's 3 kids, so that's 8 kids that are ostensibly quite important.
And Larys is given more to do, so there's that. And there's like I guess Lionel Strong. We're introduced to him.
He's been in a few episodes. This was probably the second most that he's done, but yeah, I mean, he just and they're just kind of like I didn't care, and then Lena kills herself, which also apparently, I guess Targaryens or Targaryen adjacent actually aren't immune to fire, and that was just a Daenerys thing. I read online that apparently in 1999 or 1998, George R. R. Martin did say Targaryens are not immune to fire, and I think that was purely a Daenerys thing, but it wasn't communicated particularly well.
No, because I was under the impression that if a Targaryen of any kind walks into the dragon fire, they don't get burned.
Yeah, I know technically Lena's a Valerian, but I thought it's kind of like similar. I don't know, but yeah.
But she's half Targaryen.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Rhaena Targaryen is her mom.
That's right. Yeah. So
and she's just a charred skeleton at the end of the episode.
And she just kills herself because she would rather die than, I guess, die in childbirth. And
just die in childbirth or die a quote dragon rider's death unquote.
Yes. And Laenor doesn't even I don't know if he even knows, because obviously that's his sister. So is that like a big deal? I
assume the next episode will.
Yeah, but the thing is, we've never seen Laenor and Laena interact.
Nope.
We've never seen Lionel, Harwin, and Larys interact all together. So there's so much that we're just intimating, and all the tension that we're seeing between Rhaenyra and Alicent. Yeah, we just have to say it's gotten worse. Oh, Chris and Cole has hardened into this kind of monster, and he's just a guy that I kind of liked the first episodes. He's just a bad dude now, and he's egging on
a bad guy with no subtlety, none. He's essentially outright assaulting people and being like, you're the queen, you're the princess, you're the princess's whore, and she's saying that out in the open. It's what the fuck is going on?
Egging on Harwin to attack him, to basically sort of put into the air, oh, you might be the father of these children. And also, Harwin suffers worse consequences for like punching Kristen a few times, way more than Kristen suffered for like murdering Laenor's like right hand man.
Laenor's protector.
Yeah, so like Harwin is like excommunicated and like sent out of City Watch, and it's a whole thing. And Lionel tries to resign, and the king won't let him resign because he's like, I think I've been compromised, but he refuses.
Well, he also won't say in front of Alicent, like Alicent is the reason I'm leaving.
Well, no, he's leaving because he thinks that Rhaenyra's kids are but his grandchildren.
But Alicent is the reason all of this is coming to a head. She's the one actively pushing.
Yeah, she's pushing that. Hey, because Viserys is kind of happy to turn a blind eye to it, and he gives like a weird story of, hey, I saw a white horse and a black horse have a plain brown baby, so like it could happen, and that's good enough for me. And let's just like leave it as is.
I like that. And that's good enough for, I mean, look, Viserys is very much like an old ding dong, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how. Yeah, I don't know how else to. I don't know how else to explain it, right? But like he is very much the old ways, but the old ways, not the Otto Hightower old ways. He's talking about like the old ways, like old Valyria, like whatever. Like you still have the name, you still, and it's like, but that's like they're not like they're still Targaryen. Ultimately, they are still Targaryen, which is why he doesn't care.
Yeah, because it at least has Rhaenyra's blood. Like he's like,
that's why he's like, whatever. Like
he's like, I'm not that bothered, and he's like, and they can control dragons, and they tick off all the boxes,
right? Because they're still Targaryens,
and so he's happy to let it go. But Alicent, like I said, she like. There's really no purpose. Like because the way I'm seeing this, like Rhaenyra has no interest in hurting Alicent's children and stuff. She's happy to just kind of let things go. She'll take it on. And then when she sees Alicent is really pushing your children are bastards, and if I might go public with this, and then that's actually the whole conflict that sets up the original Game of Thrones. She says, okay, why don't we just marry our houses? Like I'll have my son marry, or my son marry your daughter. And
and then she's like, she's talking to Kristen Cole, and she's like, "Isn't it funny to see her cornered in the corner, begging for scraps?" I mean, that is what Rhaenyra is doing. Because look, my biggest issue with this episode, and I know we need to start bringing this to a close. My biggest issue with this episode is it has made Rhaenyra a character I don't want to cheer for anymore. It's a character that I just like. You mentioned that all the characters have become assholes, her included, and now I'm just like you said, like, her kids are going to be more important, more interesting. And like, I don't know, like Rhaenyra as a character, like all of a sudden it's hard to get excited or interested in her because she is as bad as everybody is saying. She is doing things that are bad, quote unquote bad. But
the thing is, like, the thing she's doing, like, it's just like if Alicent just dropped it, like it wouldn't be
right. Of course,
like, and the thing is, okay,
it's not like what Cersei and Jaime did.
No, yeah, like
that's different. That's worse.
She's not killing people. She's just
but Cersei and Jaime had a child together that was a bastard, not a Baratheon at all. It's not like Robert, it's not like Robert's bastard kids. That's fine because they're still part Baratheon. Like that's like a full-blooded Lannister baby. This is a half Targaryen, half strong child.
Yeah. And the other thing is like, and she literally proposes a solution to the whole show. Like, if our families get married, like there's no tension because it's the crown will run through both of us. We don't have to fight. Either people say your son's the rightful heir, or my son's the rightful heir. It doesn't really matter. Like, problem solved. And and I found that frustrating because I was like, essentially Alicent's pettiness at this point causes all of the conflict.
I mean I feel like the thing about this show, this version of the show, is really like watching one or two decisions being made that seem infinitesimal or minor, but they fester, right? And I feel like that's what we're seeing. Maybe they're not trying to play on it with the king specifically, but that's what it feels like. Is the king is a reflection of his reign. Does that make sense? And so the longer his reign goes on and the more kind of polluted it gets, the more kind of disgusting and polluted and kind of he starts to fall apart in response to it. I feel like there's got to be part of that, but I'm with you. Like I would have preferred to see the fracturing of Alicent and Rhaenyra's friendship, which is the main conflict of this show. It is the main conflict that all the other conflicts come from. I would have preferred for them to maybe do that for a whole season.
Yeah.
I don't know. Or maybe give Damon less time in those first 5 episodes, but it's clear to me.
Also the best thing though about
right, I know, but it's clear to me, as it's clear to you, the quality of the show is going to rely on the relationships and how well they're played out between the big characters. And right now, Rhaenyra and Alicent hating one another as much as they do,
and the fact that like Alicent she would just rather like ruin Rhaenyra's life than even consider, because she's
internalized what her father said so hard.
She says, "You are the challenge," and I was like, okay, if you were really this concerned about your child, which I think she is, then you would take Rhaenyra's offer, because then all the like
right.
But it's like yes, you are concerned, but you're not concerned enough to put like your own personal vendetta aside.
Right. Human beings get in the way of everything.
Yeah, and so like by the end of the episode, Rhaenyra's like, all right, like we got to go to Dragonstone and like basically build our own people, because she kind of sees it. She's like, I think when my dad dies, it's not going to be that simple, because if Alicent's going to be like this, like it tells me like there's not an openness to reconciliation, which could lead to, I think, like an actual conflict. But it's also interesting because all the kids are actually friends, although Aemon seems to be a little bit on the outskirts. Aegon's a bit of a bully. None of them seem horrible, but
no. But I think you're right. I mean, we're seeing is the build up to the kids being the important ones, and Rhaenyra and Alicent taking the Viserys role, or the Otto Hightower role of the voices in their ear, or the demon and the angel on their shoulder type thing, which is perfectly fine. If they're gonna do that, like, they better not try to do this before the end of the season. You know what I mean? Like, unless they're trying to tell this entire story in one season, like, guys, like it's been a lot already, and it feels like it's just going to get to be more. Right.
Yeah. And so I guess we just have to see. I think we don't know enough about the kids, but they have grown up together. We know that they've grown up together. They're generally friendly. Like they haven't, it seems like, taken the shit that their parents like have. Like, it doesn't seem like that's rubbed off on them yet.
Right.
So like,
you can see it, because Alicent is in Aegon's ear. Alicent is in Aemon's ear. Like, she's there.
Yeah. Aegon's like, I'm chill if my cousin or whatever the relationship is. Like, it's like, that's fine. Like, I just want to chill and,
jerk off in a window. Yeah. And you know what? I think that's what we saw that in the first 5 episodes. We saw Rhaenyra and Viserys coming to blows over that, right? Like, I just want to go fuck people. And Dad's like, I don't want you to do that. Now we're seeing Alicent going, you can't just sit and jerk off over King's Landing. And her son being like, nah, that's what I want to do. So, it's that there is that mirroring. I don't know. I think that the writers are more competent than Benioff and Weiss. I think that these characters have more nuance to them. We still don't have as big of a cast of characters as we did in the first iteration of the show.
We're starting to get there.
Yeah, I think yet. And that's a concern of mine, is that the net is so large that we're losing everything. But I think maybe this episode 6 is a good starting point, a good jumping off point for the rest of the show. As long as the show doesn't give us another 10-year time jump, which I don't know how it couldn't, because we know that Aegon and Aemond are going to be played by adult actors.
Yeah. Is that maybe that's like a finale thing that's saying season 2 will be them really fully as adults? I don't know.
I hope so. I hope so, because I would like now for the show to say, for the next 4 episodes, it is grounded in the next year of the conflict, not the next 5 years of the conflict.
Yeah.
Because the time jumping was a bit much, and now we've had the big time jump, and they've kind of stuck the landing. But
do you have any like theories about where you think it's going to be going?
They've already committed to changing the source material, because the way Laena dies is way different from the way she dies in the source material.
She dies walking towards her dragon, like essentially like a birth issue, whereas she self-immolates in this version, which, like I said, looks cool, but I didn't really understand or buy or like didn't care.
It's like that scene in Star Wars, The Last Jedi, where the holdo maneuver thing where like she flies through the ship and blows it up. It's like you're kind of undercutting a large part of the world of Game of Thrones by having a Targaryen die to dragonfire. Like, it might not seem like a big deal, but there was a whole plot point in the first season of this original show with Daenerys walking into the fire with the dragons. Like,
but I guess like the argument is like, well, her brother was able to be burned with the gold and stuff. So maybe it just was Daenerys.
But that wasn't dragonfire. That was gold.
Yeah.
Look, all I'm saying is it's cool that they changed it. It shows me, and it should show the audience, especially the audience who knows the source material, that they're not going to stick to the source material completely, but don't change something to make it look cool, but then also kind of like, you stick your finger in the dam to block one hole and then like 3 more pop up. Like, that's kind of what it feels like.
I felt like the deaths were a means to an end, and like we didn't spend enough time with these characters to care about them. I kind of think the next few episodes, to your point, is probably going to start building up the conflict, hopefully spending more time with the kids. I think you're going to start to see the poison of the parents start influencing how the kids see each other.
I think so.
And it seems like a near certainty that Otto Hightower is coming back. It's now that Lionel's dead. And Alicent said, she wants someone on her side. And
naughty Rhys Ifans coming back. I can't wait.
Yeah, he's great.
Look, as much as we don't like his character because his character is very much tied to the old ways, like, he's such a joy, though.
Yeah,
like Rhys Ifans, like you and I both have seen him in plenty of other things, but his presence is sorely missed on this show.
But he's definitely not going to come and de-escalate this.
No, I can't wait. That's what I want. I want him to come in and fuck shit up because it's clear that he has already, by saying what he said to Alicent in the last episode, he's already set the ball in motion. Now he's going to take the ball and just push it down the hill further.
And my other thought is Daemon probably comes back into play. And my guess is he would take Rhaenyra's side. I know where
that story goes. If they're going where it goes,
and
where the Rhaenyra and Daemon story goes.
Okay, we won't let you then if you know. But
yeah,
my initial thinking is he would probably lean more Rhaenyra because obviously he does have a fondness for her,
and he doesn't care about the king.
Yeah, he doesn't really. And as we know now, like he's chill. He's like he's the person that's like, hey, it's cool to just be like wealthy and have no responsibility. And
dude, if I were in the Game of Thrones universe, that's who I would be. Just leave me alone. Like,
I would make me second or third or fourth in line, or
I'm never going to be king. I don't have to worry about it. Like, but just let me be rich.
Yeah, that's what Aegon wants.
Well, look at Laenor. I mean, look, you know what? Say what you want about Laenor, but honestly, the most level-headed character of the show. He says it like the smart sailor when the storm is approaching. He fucking leaves. He doesn't stick around to get his boat dashed on the rocks. Like, that's not what happens.
But then Rhaenyra does pull rank on him, and she's like, technically, I'm higher than you because I am the heir. And she's like, you're staying. He's like, you got me.
I can't go get some of that weird sea ass.
Well, no, she let him bring him with him.
Yeah, I know, but he can't go off on his own to get weird sea ass.
And you got why he named the kid Joffrey, right? After his killed lover.
Oh, yeah.
Chris and Cole caved the head.
I mean, that's a dig, right?
Well, it's not a dig.
I mean, it's a dig at Chris. Kristen Cole might see it as like a dig at him.
Oh, I thought it was more he was just honoring like his lost love, right?
Kristen Cole doesn't know the name of the baby yet, though. Dude, he just kills the baby. I killed the first one. I'll kill the second one too.
Dude, I don't really understand Kristen. Like, I don't know why they should have just started him off being like kind of a D-bag
character with no subtlety now. It's like he is just full on monocle fucking mustache twirling. It's really pathetic in a way because they've taken all the subtlety out of the character and just made him like a villain that now you're like, oh, I can't wait to see him get killed. That's what it feels like, right? It's like, I can't wait for him to get burned up by the dragons. So yeah.
And then our other, and obviously the main villain is the new Lord of Harrenhal.
Oh, yes, the Varys stand-in, aptly named Larys.
Yeah, I'm not really into his character either.
It's a character we've seen before done better by someone else, and I think I could voice your concern directly. Your concern and my concern is I've seen what this kind of character on this show is, and I don't think they're going to do anything different than what we've seen before.
And the thing is, like, I don't know what drives him. And right now I'm just saying, like, he's just a chaos agent. Am I to assume
which is fine.
am I to assume his brother treated him poorly? The last time we saw that, the one interaction with his brother where he was just like telling his brother about the green things, doesn't seem like there was bad blood there. His dad seemed like a pretty level-headed dude. Maybe he was really mean to him, but it truly just seems like he's driven by pure political ambition and
enough to kill his own family.
And it's not like we saw him being like abused or like talked down or
right. Maybe the next episode they'll be like, I killed him because they were ganging up on me as a kid because they called me Clubfoot, and it's like,
but
we didn't see that. We don't know. Like we didn't know that when you did it. I don't know. I'm with you.
I think he probably also gets elevated in status to maybe something proper for the queen, because he kind of is now holding this over her. He's like, I know you didn't ask me to do this, but basically you did, and I'm just gonna like. And also, it's kind of one of those things where once it becomes real, it becomes easier to do. And I think now that Allison is like, oh my gosh, this thing is horrible, but she's gonna. I could see her internalizing and saying, well, I indirectly killed these people, or so like may as well keep doing it.
And honestly, that for me, like the way the episode ends felt like such a cop out where she's like, I didn't ask you to do that. It's like the response from her should have been ends justified the means. Like the father of Rhaenyra's kids is dead now. Like one less pawn on the board to worry about, because even a pawn can take out a king. That's the Game of Thrones.
I think it was highlighting her naivete. Like, she says all these things, like she talks shit to Rhaenyra.
But there's no naivete. That's the problem. They're painting her.
I guess my point is, like, she's like saying all this, like, you are the challenge. It's like, okay, so you're doing all these things. You're raising the stakes. Like, what do you think will happen?
Right. So when confronted with the reality, I feel like she shouldn't have bulked, though. I feel like in the world of Game of Thrones, bulking is something that gets characters killed. You know what I mean? Like Ned Stark. He thought he was safe, but he wasn't. Like, in my mind, it should have been she goes, okay, like ends justified the means. Like, you wanted him gone, so he's gone. Your hands aren't dirty. Your hands are clean. Like,
you wanted someone on your side, which I interpret as you want your dad back. And the only way to get your dad back is to get, Lionel dead. And if we kill Harwin too, like,
yeah, it deals with two problems at once.
Yeah. So it is odd.
It's like I said, it ramps up the show pretty quick.
Like, I was super engaged in the episode. I just don't know if I would say it was like a paragon of good writing or emotional storytelling or anything like that.
There's a lot of heavy lifting in this episode, and I'm not sure if they were successful in lifting it all up. They have a lot to do, right? A lot
of heavy lifting that relies on us. Like we've been talking about the show don't tell thing. There's definitely not enough showing.
No, I agree. And for a show that is known for showing a lot, yeah. So on the 7th episode, we're going to be right back in it with Miguel Sapochnik directing once again with Driftmark. So that episode will be coming to you sooner rather than later, but we got to wait to watch the show. So until then, Yashar, still camped out on the internet waiting for those, what are they, Dwayne Wade 24 shoes? Is that what they are? Is that what you're... Whatnot? So you're shopping on Whatnot?
I'm waiting for my Yeezys, but I think Old Navy, or was it Gap, canceled the contract.
Can you imagine that? Is that a real thing?
You didn't see that? Kanye has a contract with deal with, it was, I think it's Old Navy or Gap. I get them very confused because they're basically the same thing. And he just pulled the plug on it.
Gap has clothes that are like blue, and then Old Navy has clothes that are like blue and pink, and Gap has clothes that are like brown and shades of brown.
Are they not owned by the same people? I feel like they're the exact same store.
I mean, I have been into one. I've never been into the Gap, but I've been into Old Navy. Old Navy is just a weird store, right? It's like a clothing barn, like where you buy clothes from like people who are, I mean, anyone who works in retail will probably hate having to talk about their job. So,
so you can find me nowhere, something Web3,
something Kiwi Farms.
Yeah.
something 4chan.
8chan actually, but
8kun. I'm on Tor, the dark web. As for me, you can find me on the internet at cstashu.com. That's the link tree for other things that I work on, so go there. As for this show, gamerbros.com, coming to you once every week until the show is done. So we'll be taking a break at the end of the season because there is no more Game of Thrones until the next season of the show. We got 4 more episodes ahead of us. So, yeah.
Can't wait to see who dies that I don't care about next week.
Right? And we'll catch you on the next episode.